At first, I thought she admired me, but then she joined my clubs, applied for my jobs, even copied my hairstyle. That's when I realized she wasn't a fan, she was my rival. I always thought college would be the place where I finally got to figure out who I was. High school felt like survival, but stepping onto campus that first week gave me the rush of starting over. New people, new routines, new identity. I told myself, this time, you get to be whoever you want. It started small, so small that I didn't even notice at first. There was this girl in my major. Her name was Lila. She had a soft voice, the kind of face you'd forget in a crowded hallway, and she always sat a few rows behind me in lectures. At first, I barely paid attention to her. She was just there. But then I noticed something. I signed up for the debate club during orientation, excited because I'd never tried it before. When I walked into the first meeting, guess who was sitting right across the room? Lila. She waved like it was some coincidence. I thought, oh, cool, she must be into debate too. The next week, I heard about an internship opening in the Student Career Center. It was competitive, only a few spots available. I decided to give it a shot. When I turned in my application, I saw Lila in the same office, handing hers over too. She smiled again, that same polite little smile. It kept happening. Everywhere I went, there she was. Every club I joined, every study group, every optional seminar. At first, I told myself I was overthinking. College is big, sure, but majors overlap. Maybe she just had similar interests. Maybe it was all coincidence. But then, something happened that made my stomach twist. One morning, I walked into class with my hair freshly cut. I'd gotten bangs for the first time in years, a spur-of-the-moment decision I made with my roommate cheering me on. I felt good about it, confident, different. The next day, Lila walked into lecture with the exact same haircut. Same length, same bangs. She even wore her hair parted the way I had styled mine. That's when the chill set in. I remember staring at her, thinking maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe she already planned the haircut, maybe it was a trend. But no, the way she looked at me when she walked in, like she wanted me to notice, made it feel intentional. Like she wanted me to know she was following. It was flattering in a weird way, but also unsettling. It wasn't just similar interests, it was starting to feel like imitation. And deep down, a thought whispered that I didn't want to say out loud. What if she wasn't just copying me? What if she was trying to become me? Have you ever noticed someone copying your style or habits? Did it feel flattering or creepy? After the haircut moment, I couldn't stop noticing her. It was like once I allowed myself to see it, the pattern became impossible to ignore. In group projects, she volunteered for the same roles I picked. If I said I'd handle the research, she said she would too. If I spoke up with an idea, she backed it up. Not in a supportive way, but in a way that made it sound like she had thought of it first. Professors started looking at her as much as they looked at me. At first, I tried to laugh it off with my roommate, Jenna. I told her about the clubs, the internship, the haircut. Jenna scrunched her face and said, that's actually kind of weird. Like single white female vibes, I rolled my eyes and said she was being dramatic, but secretly, I felt the same shiver. The breaking point that week came during a debate club meeting. I had been preparing an argument all night, making notes, practicing in front of the mirror until my voice didn't shake. When it was my turn, I stood up, ready to deliver. But before I could even finish my opening line, Lila raised her hand, asked to speak after me, and repeated my entire argument, almost word for word. The room laughed like it was some funny coincidence. The moderator chuckled and said, great minds think alike. I stood there frozen, my carefully rehearsed words turning to ash. She looked at me from across the table and smiled again. The same polite smile, but this time it felt sharper, like she was daring me to notice. I walked back to my dorm afterward in a haze, Jenna waiting by the door with instant ramen steaming on her desk. I dropped my bag and said, she's copying me. On purpose, Jenna nodded slowly. What are you gonna do? That question sat heavy in my chest. What could I do? Tell her to stop? She hadn't technically done anything wrong. Joining clubs wasn't illegal. Getting a haircut wasn't a crime. Even copying my arguments wasn't plagiarism unless she put it in writing. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was building, like a storm just past the horizon. The next day, I decided to test her. It was stupid, childish even, but I needed to know. I wore an outfit I never normally wore, a bright yellow sweater, chunky earrings, and plaid pants I'd bought on clearance. I felt ridiculous walking across campus, but I kept telling myself this was research. 2 days later, she showed up in lecture. Bright yellow sweater, chunky earrings, plaid pants, and this time, when she sat down, she didn't smile. She just looked at me, straight on, as if she wanted me to know that she was doing it. No excuses, no coincidences. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just admiration or competition. This was something darker. If someone copied your clothes, hairstyle, and even your words, would you confront them immediately? Or wait to see how far they'd go? After the yellow sweater incident, my skin prickled whenever I saw her. It wasn't just the copying anymore, it was the way she looked at me, like she was waiting for my next move so she could take it for herself. I tried to act normal, but Jenna could see right through me. One night, while we were brushing our teeth side by side in the cramped dorm bathroom, she said, you look like you're being haunted. You need to do something. I spat out toothpaste foam and muttered, like what? She's not breaking any rules. Jenna leaned against the sink, arms crossed. Then make a rule. Draw a line. People like her push until you push back. I thought about that all night, lying awake while the hum of the radiator filled the silence. What would pushing back even look like? The next morning, I decided to test her again, but differently this time. Instead of choosing something random, I picked something I knew she wouldn't normally do. The engineering club was having a workshop, circuits, soldering, all that techie stuff. I'd never been interested, but I signed up just to see. The room smelled like metal and melted plastic, wires curling like spaghetti across tables. I felt completely out of place, fumbling with the tools, laughing awkwardly with the few girls who showed up. And then, right on cue, she walked in. Lila, clipboard in hand, smiling politely as the instructor handed her a kit. My stomach dropped. She hadn't even hesitated. I left early, my fingers still smelling like burnt copper, and walked the long way back to my dorm. I kept asking myself why. Why was she doing this? Was it some twisted game? Or did she actually want to erase me, replace me, become me? That night, Jenna and I sat on the floor eating pizza straight from the box. I told her everything about the workshop. She chewed slowly and said, "Okay, that's not normal." At this point, she's not just admiring you, she's obsessed. The word made my chest tighten. Obsessed. It felt too heavy, too dramatic, but also right. I decided I had to see how far she'd really go. If she wanted to follow, then I would lead. Into territory that wasn't safe. Not dangerous, but uncomfortable. Something that would prove her motives. So the next week, I signed up for open mic night at the campus cafe. I'd never performed in my life, and the thought of reading poetry in front of strangers made my stomach twist. But that was the point. It was a leap. Something raw and personal. Something she couldn't possibly mirror. When the night came, I stood under the spotlight, heart racing, words trembling out of me. And when I finished, the applause blurred into white noise because all I could see was her, standing in line at the sign-up sheet waiting for her turn. Do you think the protagonist should keep testing Lila? Or finally confront her about the copying? The cafe lights were warm, yellow, almost comforting, but my skin prickled as if I were standing in the cold. I could still feel the echo of my own shaky voice in the microphone as Lila stepped up to the stage. She looked calm, steady, like she belonged there. She unfolded a piece of paper and started to read. My mouth went dry. The poem was almost identical to mine. Not word for word, but the rhythm, the theme, the way she described the sky and the loneliness of being unseen. It was all there. Only hers was polished, smoother, like she had practiced 100 times. The audience clapped louder for her than they had for me. I sat frozen in my chair, nails digging crescents into my palms. It felt like I was vanishing, like my voice had been stolen and given back in someone else's tone. After the show, students gathered around her, asking about her writing, complimenting her courage. I slipped out quietly, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the chatter. On the walk back, Jenna caught up with me, her steps quick and sharp. "Okay, this is insane. She's not just copying anymore, she's competing. She's trying to beat you at being you." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The thought that someone could take your identity and wear it better than you, it made me feel small, replaceable. The next few days blurred into each other. Every time I walked into class, I scanned the room for her before even finding my own seat. Every time I spoke up, I wondered how she would echo it. The air around me felt heavier, like I was being watched not just by her, but by everyone, waiting to see who did it better. By Thursday, I couldn't take it anymore. After lecture, I stuffed my books into my bag and marched toward her. She was chatting with a couple of students near the door, that same calm smile on her face. When she saw me coming, her expression flickered just slightly, like she'd been expecting this moment. "Hey, Lila," I said, my voice tighter than I wanted. "Can we talk?" Her smile widened, polite as ever. "Of course." We walked out into the hallway, the buzz of students fading behind us. I folded my arms, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why are you doing this? Joining everything I join, saying everything I say, even cutting your hair like mine. What's the point?" For a second, she just looked at me, her eyes soft but unreadable. Then she tilted her head slightly and said, "Isn't it nice to be admired?" The words sank into me like ice water. Admired. She said it like it was a compliment, like I should be grateful. I opened my mouth to argue, to tell her it wasn't admiration, it was suffocation. But the way she looked at me, calm, steady, almost innocent, made the word stick in my throat. Do you think Lila truly admires the protagonist? Or is she hiding something more dangerous behind that word? Her words echoed in my head long after the conversation ended. Isn't it nice to be admired? Admiration was supposed to feel good, warm, safe, but the way she said it, so steady and sure, made it sound like a trap, like she had carefully chosen the one word that would make me question my own instincts. For days, I kept replaying that moment. In the dining hall, in the library, even walking across the quad. I tried to convince myself that maybe she really did just admire me. Maybe she wasn't dangerous. Maybe she was just lost. But then I'd catch her eyes on me, always calm, always studying, and the thought would dissolve into unease. Jenna wasn't buying it. "She's gaslighting you," she said one night as we sat cross-legged on her bed with mugs of hot chocolate. "She knows what she's doing, and she wants you to feel crazy for noticing." "But what if I am overreacting?" I whispered. "What if I'm just paranoid?" Jenna shook her head. "No one follows someone that closely unless they want something. And it's not just flattery, it's control. She wants to own the space you're in." That word, control, stuck with me. It was exactly what it felt like. I wasn't leading my own life anymore. I was moving pieces on a board that she immediately mirrored. She turned every choice I made into hers, like I was feeding her identity piece by piece. The next week, something happened that pushed me over the edge. I had an interview scheduled for the internship I'd applied to at the start of the semester. I'd been preparing for weeks, organizing answers, practicing with Jenna, even buying a new blazer just for the occasion. I showed up at the office confident until I saw her, Lila, sitting in the waiting room, wearing almost the exact same outfit. My chest tightened. When they called my name, I forced myself through the interview, but the words tangled in my throat. I couldn't stop picturing her in the same room, saying the same answers, only smoother, better. By the time I walked out, my confidence had cracked. That night, Jenna and I stayed up late, pacing the dorm room, whispering like conspirators. "You can't let her take everything from you," Jenna said, her voice sharp. "You need to set a boundary. Make it clear this isn't okay." I nodded, but inside, a deeper fear stirred. What if I confronted her and she didn't stop? What if she only pushed harder? What if she wanted more than just to copy me? Because by now, it didn't just feel like imitation. It felt like she was rehearsing for something bigger, something I hadn't yet seen. And the thought I couldn't shake was this. If she was rehearsing, then what exactly was the performance? Do you think the rival just wants admiration and control, or is she planning something bigger that the protagonist hasn't realized yet? I couldn't shake the image of her in that interview waiting room. The same blazer, the same poised look, as if she'd been rehearsing my role and was ready to step in if I faltered. For the first time, I felt afraid. Not annoyed, not unsettled, afraid. I started avoiding her, slipping out of lecture the second class ended, choosing study spots off the beaten path in the library, even skipping debate meetings. But somehow she still appeared. If I studied in the science wing, she'd stroll in 15 minutes later. If I went for coffee at the cafe near the art building, she'd show up, order the same drink, and sit within sight. It was like being chased by my own reflection. One night, I called Jenna after midnight. My voice cracked as I said, I think she's everywhere because she knows where I'm going. Like she's tracking me. Jenna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, you need proof. Screenshots, pictures, something that shows this isn't just in your head. So the next day I tried. I snapped photos on my phone whenever she showed up in the same place. In class, in the library, at the cafe. A collage of coincidences that didn't look like coincidences anymore. I stared at the images later, heart pounding, as if I were building a case against her. But the worst part came when I finally checked my social media. Every post I'd made in the last month, every caption, every picture, she had mirrored. If I posted a photo of my latte, she posted hers the next day with the same heart emoji. If I shared a quote I liked, she posted it too, word for word. Even my silly bathroom selfie with Jenna had been copied, except she posed with one of her own friends, mimicking the exact angle and expression. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just real life anymore. She was replicating my online self too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept scrolling through her feed, my hands shaking, my chest tight. It was like watching someone peel off my skin and wear it. Around 3 in the morning, I got a notification, a new post from her. I opened it and my breath caught. It wasn't just another copied picture or quote. It was a photo of her in her dorm room, sitting at a desk. And on the wall behind her, pinned neatly in a grid, were printouts of my photos. My face, my outfits, my words all taped like some kind of inspiration board. I dropped my phone onto the bed, heart racing, unable to breathe. This wasn't admiration anymore, it was obsession. And now I had proof. If you discovered someone had a wall covered in your photos and posts, what would your next move be? Confront them? Report them? Or cut them off completely? The next morning, I showed Jenna the screenshot of Lila's post, the grid of my face and words staring back at us like some twisted shrine. Jenna's reaction was immediate. She grabbed my phone and said, that's it. You're reporting her. But something in me hesitated. Reporting her meant bringing professors, maybe even campus security into it. What if they brushed it off as harmless? What if they told me I was overreacting? Worse, what if confronting her publicly only made her push harder? No, I said quietly. I need to face her myself. Jenna looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Are you serious? That's exactly what she wants. You to engage exactly, I said. If I don't, she'll keep controlling the story. This time I want answers, so I planned it. I waited until after lecture when I knew she'd pack her things slowly like she always did, lingering until most people had cleared out. I stayed behind too, pretending to scroll through my notes. When she finally looked up, our eyes met across the half-empty room. Lila, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We need to talk. Now she didn't flinch. She just gathered her books, walked over and sat across from me, as if she'd been waiting. I pulled up the photo on my phone and slid it across the desk toward her. Care to explain this? For a moment, she just studied the screen. Then she looked up at me with that same polite smile, but there was something colder behind it now. It's inspiration, she said softly. You inspire me. Inspire? My voice cracked. That's not inspiration. That's obsession. That's stalking. Her smile didn't falter. Is it stalking to want to be better? You're everything I wish I was. Confident, smart. People notice you. They listen to you. Don't you understand? You make life look possible. Her words hit like a punch. They almost sounded like a compliment, like she was pouring her insecurities onto the table. But the way she said it, calm, calculated, made my stomach knot. I don't make life possible for you, I snapped. I'm living my life. You don't get to take it. Her expression hardened just slightly, enough for me to notice. You can't stop me from trying. The silence stretched between us. Her words hung in the air like a threat, quiet but sharp. I shoved my phone back into my bag and stood up. My legs were trembling, but I forced myself to look her in the eye one last time. If you don't back off, I will make sure everyone sees exactly what you're doing, I said. For the first time, her smile cracked. Just a flicker, but it was enough. I walked out before she could answer, my heart pounding, my hands cold. I'd finally confronted her. But instead of relief, I felt something worse. Because now I knew she wasn't just copying me. She was competing for the right to exist as me. Do you think confronting Lila directly was the right move? Or did the protagonist just make things even more dangerous? After I confronted her, something in the air shifted. It wasn't over. It was like I'd woken something up. At first, everything went eerily quiet. She stopped showing up at the cafe. She wasn't in the library when I studied. Even the classes we shared felt different. She sat in the back now, silent, head down, no polite smiles. I should have felt relief, but instead, I felt watched. Because silence isn't peace when you've been hunted. It's just the pause before something new begins. A week passed. Then little things started to go wrong. My debate club email was suddenly locked. Password changed. My online internship profile disappeared. Even my professors started acting strange. One of them, Professor Grant, asked if I'd already submitted my essay draft. I haven't yet, I said. He frowned. That's odd. I received one under your name last night. Same topic you proposed. My stomach flipped. Can I see it? He pulled it up on his laptop and turned the screen. The essay was mine. My structure, my tone, even phrases I recognized from my notes. But it wasn't written by me. It was hers. Lila. She'd somehow gotten access to my cloud files, copied everything, submitted it first. I felt my voice go small. That's not me. Someone must have. Professor Grant sighed, clearly tired. I don't want excuses. Academic integrity is serious. I left his office shaking, humiliated. My chest felt hollow. It wasn't just imitation anymore. It was identity theft. That night, I told Jenna everything. She cursed under her breath and said, "We're going to IT tomorrow." But the next morning, things got worse. My social media accounts were glitching. My photos were replaced. Her face instead of mine, same poses, same captions, even the same lighting. Friends were messaging me, asking why I'd change my look if I was okay. She was becoming me, one digital piece at a time. I ran across campus straight to the computer lab. Jenna followed close behind. We logged into everything, emails, school servers, socials, and every login attempt sent an alert, accessed from another device. When I saw the IP address listed, my stomach turned cold. It wasn't random. It wasn't some hacker. It was a dorm room in our own building, her room. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. She wasn't copying me anymore. She was erasing me, replacing me, file by file, word by word. That night, I barely slept. I kept the lights on, my laptop shut, phone turned off. Every sound in the hallway made me flinch. And when I finally drifted off, I dreamed of her, sitting at my desk, smiling my smile, writing my name. What would you do if someone started taking over your online identity? Fight back digitally, or disappear completely to start over? By morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Messages from classmates, professors, even my mom. Everyone wanted to know why I'd emailed them strange things overnight, files I'd supposedly sent, statements I hadn't written. My hands shook as I opened one of the emails. It was polite, professional, and signed with my name. Only it wasn't me, it was her. Jenna didn't let me go to class that day. "We're going to the dean," she said, voice hard, already shoving her hair into a messy bun. But when we got there, the secretary blinked at us. "You already came in this morning," she said to me. "We've scheduled a follow-up for next week." I froze. "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." She smiled politely. "You wore that same blazer, actually." I looked down at myself. Same clothes as the interview. The realization hit so suddenly it made me dizzy. She'd shown up pretending to be me. Jenna whispered, "She's not copying anymore. She's replacing." The rest of the day felt like a dream I couldn't wake from. Every person I passed looked at me twice, like they weren't sure who I was. Someone even said, "Didn't I just see you in the cafeteria?" when I hadn't left the admin building. By evening, Jenna and I were sitting on the dorm floor surrounded by piles of printouts, screenshots, timestamps, our proof. We decided to go to campus security that night before she could do anything else. But when we reached the security office, the guard gave me a confused look. "You already came by earlier," he said. I didn't even have to ask. I already knew. That's when it hit me. She was creating two versions of me. The one people trusted and the one standing right here, powerless. When we got back to the dorm, I couldn't stop shaking. I sat on the bed staring at the mirror across from me, my reflection pale and uncertain. And then I saw movement behind me. In the mirror, just over my shoulder. Her. Standing in the doorway, calm, smiling, holding her phone like she'd been waiting for me to notice. Jenna gasped and grabbed her own phone, whispering, "Call campus police." But Lila stepped forward, slow, deliberate. "You shouldn't have confronted me," she said quietly. "You made it a competition. Now I have to win." I stood frozen as she lifted her phone, showing me the screen. It was my social profile, only everything had changed. My name, my picture. But the face on the screen wasn't mine anymore, it was hers. I backed up until my legs hit the bed. Jenna shouted for her to get out, but Lila only smiled wider. "You don't understand," she said. "You're just the practice version. I'm the final draft." Then she turned and walked out, leaving behind a silence so heavy it felt like it might crush me. If someone tried to steal not just your identity but your existence, how far would you go to stop them? Stop. After she left that night, the dorm room felt hollow, as if all the air had been sucked out. Jenna locked the door twice, pulled the curtain shut, and sat beside me without saying a word. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept staring at the mirror, expecting her reflection to appear again. By morning, my accounts were gone. Every login failed. My name on the student portal led to her photo. The internship rejection email even used her email address instead of mine. She had erased me cleanly, surgically, like she'd been planning this for months. Jenna tried everything. Calls to IT, meetings with the dean, even a visit to campus security. But each office said the same thing. "We already verified your identity yesterday." Her identity. I didn't know who I was anymore. Not legally, not digitally, maybe not even personally. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. Just a tired, frightened version of the girl I used to be. But fear has a strange way of turning into focus. One night, while Jenna slept, I opened my laptop and started digging. I searched her old posts, her digital footprint, her class records, and what I found made my blood run cold. Lila wasn't her real name. The records showed someone else entirely, an old transfer file, a student who dropped out 2 years ago after a plagiarism scandal. She had re-enrolled under a new name, new ID, and now she'd built a new life by borrowing mine. I didn't sleep that night. I gathered every screenshot, every file, every post she'd mirrored. I wrote everything down, dates, times, witnesses. When the sun came up, I walked straight to the dean's office with Jenna beside me. This time, I didn't let them brush me off. I slammed the folder onto the desk and said, "You think she's me? Fine. Ask us both the same questions. See who answers right." The dean called her in. She arrived calm, perfect as always. Same blazer, same calm eyes. But when the questions started, tiny cracks appeared. My dorm assignment, my advisor's name, the exact title of my first essay. She stumbled. The room went silent. The dean looked at me, then back at her. For the first time, Lila's mask slipped. She stood abruptly, muttered something about leaving, and walked out. Campus security followed. I never saw her again. They suspended her enrollment, launched an investigation. Weeks later, the IT department restored my accounts. My student ID, my name. Everything came back piece by piece, like I was being rebuilt. But something in me had changed. I moved dorms, deleted all my socials, cut my hair again, different this time, not to reinvent myself, but to reclaim what was mine. Sometimes, late at night, I still check the shadows of my notifications, half expecting to see her face pop up again. Because the truth is, once someone tries to become you, a part of you never stops wondering if they're still out there, wearing your name somewhere else. If you were in the protagonist's place, could you ever trust the world or your own reflection again?